And we are back for the finals. This is it. 2 players are left standing after 7 rounds of Swiss and a couple rounds of single elimination top 8. And we've got Child Roland on Stone Scar Gunslingers against level 13 David on an Acaria blue list that's more of like an aggressive style, but we've gotten pretty familiar with both these lists. We've seen them a lot on coverage, but here to help cover the final of today is IlyaK doing a stand-up job stepping in and stepping up today.
Thank you, Rhino. It was definitely a pleasure casting this, and we've seen both these decks lighting opponents up, taking a close win against another Icaria blue round, and level 13 David assuming the role of the beatdown in all these Icaria blue mirrors, and I have to assume those Shelterwing Riders and Whirling Joes are paying their worth in gold, or rather in tournament wins, as we see David mulligan away his bit of a slow start. This one comes back missing any form of justice influence.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Child Roland with a 1-3-4 hand, depending on the way this is sequenced, might just take.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be able to go turn 1 Grenadin, depleted power into a 3-drop and hopefully 4-drop kind of thing, or find a 3-drop or 2-drop threat to deploy while you're playing your depleted power, right? So you should be able to scope out a nice curve. The one concern is it's a 4-power starting hand and you're an aggro deck, but at least you're on the play. You have a scouting power to try and mitigate flood and hope that your powerful curve out is enough to overcome David, who looks, as you alluded to have the potential to really stumble here if the top of the deck does not cooperate, right? Islands favor not exactly packing a huge punch in this matchup, and no justice source yet. So we'll give these players the go-ahead to get started as we're ready, and I'm sure they are as well. Yeah, this is it. Best of 5. First to 3 wins takes down this ETS Week 6 Open. Locks up a spot in the Invitational. I think both these players are. I'm not intimately familiar with how they've been doing this season, but I haven't seen Child Roland in the top 8 too much. But David, I know, has been consistently doing well. Both these players are probably already well positioned to get into the Invitational, but an actual lock with this win would go a long way.
Oh, definitely. ETS wins, especially now that we have a 7th round, increasingly hard to come by. Level 13 David has been consistently successful, showing that decisions do matter in this game. But you have to know which deck to bring as well. And he brought the right one for the job today with the right adjustments for the meta. In the meantime, Roland, very successful aggro player. When you're hot, and he made to Worlds, and there are fewer higher honors than making Worlds, especially when you make it to week 2. So both these players terrific, and both know what they're doing, and I don't think there could have been a grand finals that's much better than this.
Getting word that there might be some sort of client bug going on with like a frozen up, and that's the reason for it.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully that gets cleared up shortly. I am getting word that both players are saying it is the other player's turn, and neither of them can actually start the game. That's a fun one. I think I've ever seen that before. So I think we're gonna have to maybe get a restart here. We'll get that worked out. Zenareth and Teehee are working behind the scenes to. There's always a hiccup somewhere.
And of course, has to happen in the grand finals.
Yeah.
DWD, fix please.
Yeah, it generally runs smoothly, or as smoothly as we can, but yeah. We'll get that sorted out one way or another. What's your initial impression of this metagame? Were you expecting the top 8 to be like this? I don't think the Gunslingers were a shock, but no Tavrod. People have totally abandoned Protect. Karia is now apparently the way to go, but not in removal pile, rather pairing with Primal, right? This hit to wanted poster means, hey, Strategize and Wisdom are kind of the best draw spells again.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think it was Paradox that made the post on Reddit saying, hey, DWD, can Primal get some love? Well, apparently Primal's role is to be in Ikaria's back pocket and serve as a way to both summon her and help her out after she attacks. I think there are some Argent-Port mid-ranges that arrived today, but I can tell you from experience that Argent-Port mid-range against Ikaria Blue is a they torch one of your early drops, harsh rule your board, and then vanquish the Tavrod, and then you're in all sorts of misery. And with the nerf to protect, that matchup didn't get any better. So,
yeah, in fact, it got way worse. That's for sure. As now you're leaning on just sabotage, and once you're in top deck mode against the control deck as Argent-Port, if you don't have a Tavrod in play, you've lost.
Right.
You have no other kind of draw manipulation or card velocity. It is play whatever you draw. They don't have much reach or pressure, right? We're seeing these other decks with charge units and all sorts of other things coming out, and Ikaria Blue's been able to handle those anyways, much less a slower, more deliberate deck like say.
Right.
We'll see what other decks rise up if in response to today's results, as there's a lot of really cool things out there that are just tough to
you
figure
are streaming
out.
some spicy stuff.
Yeah,
as a fan of giant robots, particularly Gundam, I am hoping that the Praxis Sentinels, Explorers, Relics deck gets a little more in the upcoming adventure starring everyone's favorite Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And we'll see which way that goes. More of a surprise to me was considering that DWD was saying, hey guys, we don't like how little time mid-range there is right now. Here are some new tools. Sandstorm Titan, get your seat back at the table, please, and keep some of these people honest. And
yeah,
we only saw a one-time mid-range deck. It was promptly shown the door.
Yeah, it's been so long since we've been refining these decks that I think it'll just take a little bit of time for them to get back up to speed. But speaking of speed, this match is underway. So both players have pretty nice hands and curve outs, although Child Roland's hand usually a bit heavier on removal than you'd like against control. But in this case, level 13 David is playing some units that you'll be able to pistol or madness away. And that's what we see here as the Whirling Duo comes in and adjust life totals to be 22 to 28.
Right. So Roland's saying, okay, this thing has got to go. Sees a whole bunch of card draw in David's hand, and you have to say, which draw do I remove?
Yeah, one of these things is not like the other, right? There's a tutor and then a bunch of draw twos. And does Child Roland care about the card advantage or the card selection going forward in this?
If so, Child Roland says, okay, I only have one unit, so I can't afford that Rise hitting a Rune Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
He's just going to clean up this. Knab goes the hideout pistol, and in comes the Champion of Chaos for 5, even though she's not buffed up yet.
Yeah, so in the last match, we saw the Ikaria Blue player have access to things like Lightning Storm. Those aren't in the main deck for level 13 David or the sideboard, just some Rock Slides hanging out over there, and some Vanquish and Lightning Strike and Permafrost are the removal of choice main deck to go with lots of cheap removal from level 13 David, but not a lot of sweepers. So potentially these Grenadins plus assembly lines have the ability to really do some damage as we see a Bandit Queen off the top push David down to 15.
Take 8 for having an empty board. Not where you want to be. So this Wisdom is uncastable until this Eilin's Favor comes out. So 5 power, draw 3 for 2 cards. Level 13 David knows he has to kill something with his. He's going to leave it up. It's probably going to pick off this Bandit Queen. I stand corrected. Out comes a vicious eye. Top
Yeah.
side Aegis.
Yeah, Child Roland maybe taking into consideration, they could have sweepers and harsh rules and things, but at the same time, you got to kill your opponent,
Right.
and plays out the Vicious Highwayman, forces David to use the Lightning Strike rather than Wisdom there, finds another Lightning Strike, and David wisely casting Wisdom the Elders at the correct time, which is on his turn.
Ooh, picks up a pair of torches. So at some point, you have to ask yourself, when do I torch one of these Grenadins?
Yeah. I think the answer is not quite yet. You're going down to 8. That's not too bad if you find something like a Throne Warden, although you only run one of them. Or in this case, boom,
Speaking of something,
a Whirling Duo to get your health total pretty nice and healthy, right? 11 now. And all Child Roland has is a Madness and a Pair of Power. Not looking good for him right now.
and now we see why level 13 David's in the grand finals, because after you've stabilized, if you're at 4 health against a deck full of charge units, you are not long for this world. But if you have a Whirling Duo that's backed up by a whole bunch of control deck removal, no boy.
Ashara is the draw, which is conveniently out of torch range, but in vanquish range. And David draws a Runehammer too, because why not? So he's got his pick of the litter as far as how to deal with this Ashara, and chooses to use vanquish here.
So Ashara cleaned up, and now that Madness is looking pretty silly, with no sacrifice outlet.
Yeah, and sabotage the draw for Roland here. Sees the pair of torches and a Runehammer. It's all bad news, but decides to take out one of the fast speed removals. Hope to trim those down and find some charging pressure.
Yeah, and you can just hear the sigh from just seeing how many ways would you like me to wipe up your board.
David deciding to use the hammer here and maybe hold back the Whirling Duo, just switching up gears for a moment, deciding.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point, because even if you clear out both of these Grenadins, the hammer can't go face. There's a Champion of Chaos and Outlaw under a Permafrost.
Right.
So
David seeing the permafrosted units.
Yeah, maybe temporarily forgetting about them or something like that. It's happened to me, and it certainly can happen to any player after 10 rounds of Eternal. So
absolutely. Leak power the draw for the turn for David. And recall that he was at 6 life at one point.
Yeah, something like that. And yeah, Whirling Duo showing off how strong this card is. We've seen it in every kind of deck that you can imagine, right? We've seen it in control, mid-range aggro. It's just such a nice package of abilities. Lifesteal and charge on a 3/3 for 3. When we first saw this card, we knew it was something special, and it's lived up to that hype.
Oh, definitely. It's basically brought Rakano back to contention from the brink of death. And Child Roland forced to use this madness just as a game 3.
Yeah. And David sees the strategize from the crest that he scouted last turn and finds, okay, a rise to the challenge. That's a pretty good grab, can just bottom this power, and he'll have his option of either rising for an Ikaria to win the game or something else because he feels like it.
Yeah, one guess as to what that's fetching.
Yeah,
it's the start of the next adventure.
Yeah, it's the Belle of the Ball. Ikaria has been risen for. She is up for the challenge. That 7/5 Flying Endurance Warcry 5 charge and Aegis will cut down Child Roland in this first game and give level 13 David the lead.
So Child Roland trying to commit honorable Sudoku, and Ikaria helps him out with that.
Yep, the comfort of a Subaru for Child Roland there. As we move on to game 2, remember there's a best of 5, no sideboarding yet. These players got to run it back for game 2. And we might see a repeat of the last round, right, where Child Roland had some of these clunky, cute Madness and Combust cards, which have been, I'm sure, serving him great in these against mid-range decks and against all these time decks that we're running where they're at. Not so good in this matchup against some of these Aegis units. They're being just a bad temporary take your 3/3 lifesteal. Ugh, that's not the value you want to have that kind of card.
So Child Roland again, looking at a pretty reasonable hand. The Grandin Drone Torch champion.
It's not too bad, except this Common Calls isn't active because Grenin Drone's not a gunslinger.
All right.
They may have updated the Champion of Chaos, but hey, Grenin Drone is a Grenadin, and a pair of Grenin Drones means Common Calls is active. There's the fire source, and I guess just the pair of them will come out here unless Child Roller wants to hold up Torch.
Again, you're here to kill your opponent.
And yeah, David has no lightning storms, no rock slides in the main deck, so these Grenin Drones will get in some chip damage as Permafrost doesn't line up quite as spectacularly against them.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, so some players opt for the lightning storm, others opt for the Permafrost. The Stone Scar deck gets you in the angle you don't have covered. That's trouble.
Yeah, it looks like death by 1,000 cuts will be Child Roland's plan for today, as a Permafrost does begrudgingly come out on one of these Grenin and cut the damage down per turn from 4 to 3 and change up the clock a bit there. That gives David a number of extra turns. It might not feel good, but sometimes you've got to buy yourself time. And now, David finds a Whirling Duo, and Child Roland plays out a tempting Permafrost target, but instead David wants to just get down the Sheltering Rider here and make Child Roland deal with that big blocker first.
Well, that big blocker is going to get dealt with by way of Combust on this Permafrosted Grendon, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, do you think you use 2 Combust on it or just 1 to pop the Aegis and let it be this bounce blocker for your 3/3?
As I said, when you're here to kill your opponent, you kill your opponent.
Exactly.
And blocking 3 damage a turn is no joke.
Right. You already had units under Permafrost. They weren't doing anything. We talked about how Combusted is just miserably bad in this matchup to begin with. So I agree. Using double Combust is the way to go there. And now Child Roland gets to hold up this torch to conveniently answer.
Let's dance. More like you're fired.
Yep, dance into the fire, a view to kill, if you will. So Child Roland has the board. David has power, and we'll see if David can draw his way out of it, because he's going to need a lot of help facing down 6 damage at 9 health and just a crest to show for it. And Ikaria gets kept on top, but that actually means David is dead.
That's not going to be enough. 6 damage this turn. Go to 3. Ikaria is going to come in, and then either 3 from the Ashara or 3 from the drone.
Yeah, and David realizing the error in his ways and scoops it up, knowing what his next draw step is. There we'll have even series, right? 1-1.
As is usual with the Ikaria Blue versus Gunslingers matchup. This is one that can go either way, especially when you have 2 excellent pilots.
So now it's time to sideboard, and I imagine Child Roland will take a similar approach that he did to the last match, where he's going to shave down on these Combust and Madness, try and up the threat count, bring in the Statue of Aiden, which in the previous matchup was pretty bad, but at least something. In this matchup, there's now some units on the other side of the board they can block. There's less Rune Hammers coming out for your opponent. It'll be a little bit better here at the very least. On David's side of the board, there's some rock slides you could bring in to help combat these Grenadins. I don't know if that's really the direction you want to take. What else is appealing to you here?
The 4th harsh rule in David's side for certain. I do think you want the Throne Wardens. The Sheltering Riders I do not like here, because 1 Vicious Highwayman shot or 1 Torch, and that's just useless. So I think I cut the Shelterwing Riders in their entirety. I bring in the Harsh Rule. I bring in the Throne Warden. I bring in at least 1 Rock Slide. And let's see if we can get some curb shaving for the other 2 rock slides. Yeah. So the Alpine Tracker, a nice little touch for cleaning up Grenadins as
Yeah,
well.
that's going to stick around. I think I would see the Vanquishes kind of get left to the wayside here, honestly. You've already got Lightning Strike, Torch, Permafrost, and you're looking to bring in Rock Slide. That might leave Vanquish as your worst removal spell in this matchup.
True. I can see both Vanquishes cut, or I could see a pair of Icarias or one Vanquish.
Oh yeah.
One Icaria cut.
Yeah,
You don't
4
want to have
Icaria
two.
is definitely a lot. that might be a little too much.
Yeah, you don't want to have you don't want to have several 7-drops in your opening. The way I see it is you put four of a card in your deck if you want to draw multiples. 3 if you want to see one with a certainty. 1 if you want to tutor for it, and 2 if it's essentially your top end finisher. So David wants to see her sooner rather than later. Imagine that he'll shave 1, but I think
Yeah,
we can
so
see 3.
Grenadin Drone are the first to draw blood in this matchup. No 2-drop from Child Roland, but has a 3-drop and a nice pair of 4-drops. Again, Saturated Maiden not setting the world on fire in this matchup, but it's better than the alternatives, which is why she has made the cut here post-board. And we'll see how David can handle all these threats coming out from Child Roland as a second Saturated Maiden shows up.
So, end of the road, friend. Bandit Queen is the draw for the turn now. Level 13, David. Well, you're preventing 4 damage. In what fashion would you like that 4 damage prevented? Considering that I have the Whirling Duo, I might be tempted to take out the Bandit Queen because she can block the duo at some point. But I think David also saw the pause.
Yep, but David agrees and does take out that Bandit Queen to free up this Whirling Duo to have some fun, and actually goes with the Whirling Duo here because, well, you can't cast Sheltering Rider on just one Justice source, and it wants to impact the board rather than cast Wisdom of the Elders here.
So Roland now has an interesting decision. He knows that Maiden is pretty safe from most forms of removal in Huru style decks, even Torches from Fire. So David unable to attack this turn because there's this ugly little Gorgon in the way of your Whirling Duo.
Yeah, so Maiden comes down, gets a cudgel from this Whirling Duo because David didn't even hit power off of that Wisdom. Found a strategize
that's rough.
Island
And this Whirling Duo is going to get rocked by this torching. And we're gonna see even more damage come in for a total of 6 this turn. Whirling Duo is the draw for the turn for level.
But David saw a pause, so I wouldn't be shocked if he opts to just hold up something like Lightning Strike this turn. Yeah, using Strategize first gets reminded there's definitely a pause there. We'll almost assuredly bottom one of these Icarias. And now if he didn't hit power again because he opted to go Strategize rather than Island's favor, and now just has to hold up Lightning Strike while missing power for another turn.
Yeah, that's rough. This Lightning Strike has to come out on this Brendan, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Three's more than 2.
Yeah, Grenadin's hitting harder, right? It got some love from that cudgel, and level 13 David setting aside pride and using Lightning Strike rather than on the biggest threat, which happens to be this Grenadin drone.
Out comes a second Maiden, and Roland is saying, "Well, you better have this harsh rule."
Nope, just a Sheltering Rider.
Yep.
But that means David is dead. Obliterate to face, 3 damage. That's 9.
Oh boy. Hey, you played the card to draw it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was sitting in Roland's hand, and it wasn't the most impressive beatdown, but David was stumbling on this power for enough turns there that the Maidens plus Grenadin drones got the job done in that game to give Roland a nice little 2-1 lead. And it's what we're talking about. Maidens aren't pretty, but they were sure a lot better than Combust or Madness in that matchup.
Yeah, to attack for 4 is not where you want to be as the aggro deck, but I'll take 2 attack over unplayable cards any day.
Yeah. This isn't why you had Maiden in your sideboard, but it'll be enough to get, hopefully, in Child Roland's case, the job done. As now David goes down 2-1 and has to try and get the equalizer here. Maybe he'll make a little bit more adjustments, but nope, we're back into this next game. So let's dive on in.
So
like David has a Seek power that, wow, a double Primal Sigil opener seeking for a Justice Sigil. So no fire sources yet, but now Wisdom of the Elders, Island's Choice, Permafrost are all castable. And Seed of Glory, the draw for David there is huge. Gets him both a fire source and a second Justice source.
yeah, that is fantastic. And David now has his choice of Wisdom or Permafrost, and elects to pass the turn. Just he up Island's Choice for I don't know what reason.
It's more just so you can bluff like Torch and some other things as well. There's nothing you could draw off Wisdom that you were going to play or cast. You already played your power for turn. So this is a spot where holding Wisdom the Elders is fine, honestly. Child Roland with the depleted power means he can't deploy the Sabotage that's in hand if he wants to play another threat, and wants to play another threat here. So a pair of Instigators is on board for David to deal with, and he's got the tools: a Torch, an Island's Choice, a Permafrost. Yep, going with Permafrost, Hold Up, Choice, and Torch here. And Roland will open on the Sabotage rather than playing something like Bandit Queen this turn.
So David has a pretty good idea of what that Sabotage is hitting. That's just going to take out this Island's Choice that had no targets to begin with, and
this is setting up well for Roland here. David will be able to play a Throne Warden next turn, which is nice, but Roland has his pick of a fully buffed Champion of Chaos and then lead it into a Bandit Queen next turn, and Throne Warden can't block any of that.
Ouch. That's going to be painful. Level 13 David close to Ikaria, but still 2 power and 1 influence short. Roland actually just swinging with the Champion of Chaos without any additional buffs, just jams through 4 damage. And that's why, because here's another Champion of Chaos.
Yep, decides to play another Champion of Chaos and trade that one off for the Throne Warden, really valuing the charge that Bandit Queen can provide. We see he doesn't even play it here on this empty board, instead trying to build up even more of a board. We'll see if he dumps the hold hand, but no, is content to just have 2 threats down. Here comes Ikaria, the Liberator, getting some war cries, but this looks like a pretty good board to Bandit Queen. Both of your units are deadly that you can push through, but we'll see if Roland decides to hold tight with that still, actually, because the Bandit Queen itself can't swing here. It's just, if you don't play a 3rd unit, Ashara is going to eat up your Champion of Chaos.
Right. So whoa!
So we see Roland accept that he'll kill his own Champion of Chaos, but get David down to 4, which is a pretty big number, because now he'll have 2 3/3s in play and a Bandit Queen in hand to make all of those hit for 4 damage as level 13 David whiffs this turn. And
Mario's going to get a swing in, but
yeah, that's going to be it. Child Roland's going to present 3 lethal threats this turn with a Bandit Queen. And that was just some really clutch math, right? Where, yeah, I killed my own Champion of Chaos, but I got +4 on Ashara, where if I had played Bandit Queen, I would have only gotten +2 damage that turn, right, because the Bandit Queen would get eaten. So that 4 health breakpoint, Child Roland recognizing that and sacrificing for the greater good.
Right, and congratulations to Child Roland, the last gunslinger. That was the 3rd match, because there was 1-1 going into sideboards, and then
Child Roland taking it. So yeah, hats off to Child Roland. Really well played throughout this entire top 8, spawning some excellent lines. Aggro, some people like to think it's just hit A space every turn, but it tests your math skills, it tests your sequencing, especially this style of deck where there's so many different moving parts going on with Ashara and Madness and Vicious Highwayman triggers and all sorts of things like that. So really well done, showing off the potential of this deck and what it can do. And of course, level 13 David, a great showing as well, taking a different spin on an old classic to really great results. So well played by both players. A really entertaining tournament overall. With that being said, we're going to get Zenarath in here today to help sign us off as Rekenner's taking vacation.
Zenarath will come in, I suppose, after we let viewers know that aReNGee Eternal does have a Patreon. You want to?
Mm-hmm. Sure, I was going to leave it to Zenarath, but I can cover it. I'm a great shiller, I've been told. So yeah, the Eternal Tournament series is all completely run by volunteer and by our love of the game. But it ain't easy, and any support you can show, we greatly appreciate. So we do have a Patreon. You can check that out at patreon.com/aReNGee Eternal. Or you can support by other ways rather than just donating through that. You can always subscribe to our Twitch channel. You could just follow just by watching and participating in chat. Any kind of support that you're capable of, we appreciate it. If you like what the Eternal Tournament series brings every weekend, there's lots of avenues to show your support, and we appreciate all of it. So yeah, with that being said, I think Zenarath is in here with us. So he'll take it from here and help us sign off and bring this tournament to a close.
Thank you for watching.
All right. Then you want me to handle this one? This is what happens when Rekenner leaves us. We just pretend everything's fine. We just pretend. Okay. We're going to take a real short break, and then we'll get our side off together, guys.
Hello, so this is Zenarath, your stand-in TO, taking over Rekenner's job. We'll see exactly who wins the fight for next week. I'd like to congratulate both Child of Roland and Level 13 David for making it to the finals, and a special congratulations to Child of Roland for guaranteeing their place in the Invitational with his victory this week. Next, I'd like to thank all the players and all the viewers. If it wasn't for all of you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. Putting on this tournament and stream every week is exactly what we want to do. So thank you for coming out and watching. I also like to thank Militool and Tihi, our producers. Without them, we could not be putting on this broadcast. And also thank you to our graphics and code contributors who've been making our jobs much, much easier. Specifically Mengar for the deck image creation tool, and to our video editor, Kirby, for all of his highlights. Thanks to Counterbob for the series of deck techs we've been running in between some of the rounds, and spearheading our new tournament recap show, Best of 3. You can catch Best of 3 every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Then, thank you to aReNGee himself. He's the founder of this website, the original tournament organizer, and the person responsible for a lot of the work behind the scenes. And a huge thank you to our Twitch subs and Patreon backers. I believe this week we had a sneaky silent subscription from Rekenner himself. I think he just doesn't want to say his own name, so thank you very much, Rhino, for contributing back into this wonderful project that we have. And our $20 Patreon backers are Chuck Hurst, Andre Pokai, Seek Power Gaming, Frosty HS, Coral, Team Rankstar, David Anderson, and an honorary thanks to Why Not, or as some of you may know him, You, Me, and My Best Friend, and his inability to not give out Twitch subs to all of you sitting there in the chat. You can find our Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/RNGeternal. And finally, thank you to our casters this week. Sir Rhino, kicking it in from the start to the end, and Counter Bob for his showing in the first couple of rounds. And a special thank you to IlyaK for stepping in and supporting us this week. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Sure. I am Sir Rhino. You've been hearing me chat all day. If you want to hear me chat even more, I have my own stream on Twitch TV. You can find it. Just look for Sir Rhino. I stream almost every weekday where we just brew nonsense and pretend we're good at draft and other things. Mostly just have a lot of fun and try and become a better player and learn more about the game of Eternal. That's something you'd be interested in. I appreciate the attention, but honestly, I'm just happy to be in the casting booth when I can for this wonderful organization and tournament series. So it's a real honor and a privilege, and I look forward to it every time I get the chance to.
And I'm IlyaK. I was a substitute caster for today. It was an honor to cast this. I might get back to streaming Eternal in the near future. Whole new metagame out there, and you can find me playing Eternal or in the Discord. Yeah, I do have my own Patreon. It's not Eternal related, but investing related. So if you care about that, feel free to shoot me a message. But other than that, thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be back in the near future.
All right. Just some last minute info. Coming up tomorrow, we have the ETS Team League. We take it at a slightly different pace, a lot more hands-off. We let the teams produce their own little shows, and that way you guys can hear in exactly what the teams are thinking, and you get to see how discussions between some fairly seasoned players break down, and exactly what kind of choices and why they made the plays that they do. We are going into the playoffs section for the Team League, and I believe the finals will be hosted at least by us here at aReNGee Eternal. Then on Tuesday, we have the Best of Three, our tournament recap show, being hosted by Counter Bob, and often joined by Rhino and aReNGee. I believe there might be a secret guest interview coming this week, so we'll have to see who gets in the spotlight for that. And that's everything for this week's show. We stream ETS every Saturday. And yeah, once again, thank you for everyone for coming out, and have a good night.